welcome or welcome back to 4F Beauty. When will I be YouTube famous? I don't know. What I do know is that the particular palette that I've done this rather striking eye look with today actually arrived to me broken. I had to repress it, and I used it in another film that I did, and I said where I'd had to repress it, obviously I don't know whether the shadows are performing the way they were originally or if they're different now that I've repressed them. Would people still like to see a tutorial using it? And I got an overwhelming yes please. So in case you haven't already guessed, the palette I've used today is Melt Smoke Sessions. So, if you want to find out exactly how well this repressed palette performs, then my friend, you are in exactly the right place. Here comes the tutorial. Hey, welcome back from the intro. My phone just buzzed just as I decided to do that. Awesome. Right. You will have seen this in the intro. This is what it looks like. Now, unfortunately, when mine arrived, these shadows, the shimmers at least, were so softly pressed that mine was just broken. Literally every single one of the shimmers, except for this one, this side, yeah, sexy light fitting, were broken. There's literally only two mats in the middle. They were fine, and this one was, it hadn't broken, but it had lifted in one complete piece, but I could use my finger and just gently press it back down again. Literally the other, what is it, 5? Yeah, the other 5 shimmers were completely disintegrated. Contacted Melt, they were really apologetic. They were out of stock at the time, couldn't send me another one. Gave me the option of having one of their melt stacks. None of those really called to me. I don't want a stack of something I've got to try and store. I want a palette. That's why I picked this one up. Or they offered me a refund, so I took the refund and repressed everything. So obviously, apart from this shadow, I don't know whether the other shimmers are performing the way that they should be. I mean, this one on the end here, the super light bluey greeny one, which is stunning. When I swatch that, it doesn't swatch anywhere near as well as the other shimmers do. What I'll do, I'll take a photograph of that and I'll put that picture up on screen, rather than try and wave my arm at you. Right, so that picture I've just taken editing me is going to put in here now, while so I don't make a complete crud of everything, take this off my arm. So the shadows from obviously wrist to elbow are Gravity OG, Granddaddy, Black Widow, Sour Diesel, Space Queen, Mean Green, Sweet Tooth and Blue Dream. I was hesitant about filming with this because of the damage and because I can't be absolutely sure that this is how these would perform had they arrived to me perfectly. But when I did my collab video with the wonderful Nikki Raven, where we did our looks inspired by a photo, which is a new series I've started on my channel, I used one of the mats from here in that look, and I had quite a few comments from people saying, oh, I really want to see what you can do with that palette. So your wish is kind of my command, so I'm going to do a look with it, funnily enough. My channel is aimed at all skill levels, from someone who's never picked up a brush before to someone who's an expert. That, combined with the fact that I have fibromyalgia and I have arthritis in my spine, I don't do my makeup perhaps as quickly as most tutorials do. I don't cut anything out. If a shadow takes longer to blend, you're going to see that that particular shadow takes longer to blend. If I cock up, you're going to see that as well, and you'll see how I fix it. It's important, I think, particularly for beginners, to see that makeup doesn't always go perfect first time. But if you are one of the experts and you can sort of blend quicker than I can, then YouTube is your friend. It has a speed widget, either here or here, depending on whether you're watching me on laptop or phone or whatever. And you can, by all means, speed my tutorial up so I sound like a member of Alvin and the Chipmunks. Right, let's get you zoomed in. Face is washed, moisturised, SPF'd, and it is primed. I've used my usual antiperspirant primer. Mini tutorial about that, and link for that is in my description box below because I've made it part of the standard upload. Right, time for me to give you a quick run through on eye shapes and brushes. Now, I do this at the start of every film so that if this is the first one of my films you've watched, you get the benefit of this tip, the same as everybody else does. However, if you've watched a few of mine and you know what I'm going to say about brushes and hooded lids, feel free to fast forward to the point when you see me lift a brush with shadow on it. I will not be offended. And I promise I won't talk about you while you're not listening. Right, that silliness aside, when I look straight ahead, you can see all of my mobile lid from inner corner to, I didn't blend that bit very well, did I? To outer edge. So I don't have a hooded lid. If you don't see that, you either have a full or a half hooded lid, or what's known as a mono or an Asian eye. What I do have, however, are deep set eyes, and these can often be mistaken for hooded eyes. I'll show you what I mean. This is the eye I'm blind in, so I can close this eye and still see what I'm doing. If I put this brush handle here and then close my lid, you can see I've got as much space again, if not maybe a little bit more, that folds back in and goes back deep into the crease of my eye. So I do experience some of the issues that people with hooded lids have, in that when I use shimmers and when I use glitters, they will transfer up onto the upper lid. However, that only really notices, for me at least, when I close my eyes. So if I'm really fussed about it and I'm going somewhere where I really want to look tip top, I'll use a glitter glue 9 times out of 10, whatever. However, you can still follow my tutorial if you have hooded lids. What you need to do, grab a brush, something like this, or a pencil brush, just something with a very, very fine tip to it. And with your eye open, just sketch out where you're going to need your crease to fall. Alright? Now obviously this will reduce the amount of space between your crease and your brow. Always raise your brows when you're applying shadow, because that makes them as taut as possible, because when I'm filming this I'm 44. I've only got a couple of months until I'm 45. I've also lost about 10-11 stone, so the skin on my eyelids moves a lot more than a 20-year-old's does. And because this eye got pulled around a lot when I was a child, you can see I've got really, really permanent deep creasing here. This is why you don't pull your lids around any more than you absolutely have to, because that is damage done when I was 5 years old, 6 years old at the ophthalmic hospital. So the skin on your eyelids is super delicate, please treat it as such. Now, if you've either got low brows or you've had to move your crease up, sorry, but where I've had a cold, my eyes are still quite watery, and I just kind of poked myself in the eye and made it water. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of excess powder off of my brush just to try and stop it from streaming everywhere. Now, I'm not going to use these brushes because obviously I need to go and clean them, but these are good demonstrations of the types of brushes that I use. I start off with a fluffy brush like this and then move down to a more tapered blending brush. Obviously, if you've not got much space here, you don't want to start with a brush like this. You want to start with a brush more like this, so it doesn't blow the shadow out so far. You have more control about how far the shadow blends. Obviously, if you're starting with this one, when I move down to this, you then need to use something like this. Now, this I got from Coastal Scents. It's a tapered blending brush. You can see it's still really loosely packed, but it comes right up to a point, so you can really control how wide the shadow is when you're blending it out. Okay, so there's no reason at all that you can't follow mine or anybody's tutorial for that matter. It's just a case of knowing how to move your crease. Right, the brushes that I'm going to be using today, it's a set that I bought from AliExpress actually. Cost me £2.60, and it was a set of about 12, and they are so super soft. Now, I've used this once already, as you can see, but these are softer than my Spectrum brushes, which are super expensive. So yeah, these are Ranimore is the brand. I'll put a picture up on screen here now to show you what was in the set of all the brushes, and I will try and link to the item in the description box below. But Ranimore themselves, I actually bought it from the Ranimore store on AliExpress, and they had two choices. They had black handles or this sort of taupey colour, and I much prefer this to black handles. It's just it's like I like these chromy ones from BH Cosmetics, and actually I quite like these gold ones from Morphe. But anyway, so these are the brushes I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to start off with a big old fluffy brush, and I think I'm going to go in with these ones here, because these sort of, these greeny golds to me look very similar to the Natasha Denona gold palette, but considerably cheaper. However, I'm going to be concentrating on this side because, to be honest, those were the shadows that called me into wanting this palette. Now I know what you're thinking. There's only one matte. How are you going to create a look? Well, because you know that makeup rule about not putting shimmer in your crease, especially when you're over a certain age? Yeah, I don't follow that rule. What I do always do is make sure that I leave at least a brush width, sort of 4 or 5 mils, below the lowest part of my brow, and obviously that then becomes a lot thicker when my brow tapers up here, of just clear skin, so that there's a nice bare patch of matte skin before I then, so that when I put my brow highlight here, it shows. It's also a more youthful way of wearing it, because taking colour right up to your brows, it's very ageing. It's very much an 80s or 90s style. So let's not give our age away too much, ladies and gents. Eh? Hey, this is a completely different day and a completely different top, which once again looks like I'm not wearing it in the viewfinder. Basically, my eye would not stop running the other day, and no matter how hard I tried, there was absolutely no way I was going to be able to put any makeup on and have it actually A, look good, or B, stay put. So we're going to try again today. As before, my face has been washed, moisturised, primed, SPF'd, as always, I've used my antiperspirant primer. Details to that are in my description box below. I've got like a little 5-10 minute mini tutorial on it, just giving you some more information about that. I may have already said that. If I have, sorry. If I haven't, now you know. Right, let's get you zoomed back in and let's try again to put some of these on here. Okay. On my eyes, I have got the MAC Soft Ochre, as you can see, because it looks slightly yellow against my neutral skin tone, which is why I stop it here and then blend out, because otherwise I end up with like a little yellow stripe across the top, which is lovely. I'm going to start off with a BH Cosmetics number 8 brush, and I'm doing, this is a very different, I deal with this palette much differently to how I deal with my others. Where I had to reset it, I treat this now like a pressed pigment. So this is how I deal with pressed pigments. I have not set the soft ochre base at all. And rather than start off with a light shade, blend it up, add another shade, blend it up, put the dark colour in, we're going to start with the deepest, darkest colour, and we're going to go in with one of the mattes, and I'm going to go in with Space Queen, which is one of the 2 mattes in here, and I'm just going to pile the pigment on the end, tap off once, but to be honest, because of treating these like a pressed pigment, because they're so soft, I am fully expecting fallout, because every other time I've used it, I've had fallout. Okay, so I'm going to start off at the edge here, just tapping that colour on the outer corner. You can see it's a really beautiful, deep matte, and it goes on really nicely actually. And then I'm going to pick up a bit more pigment, and I'm going to come across to the inner corner and put a little bit here, because I'm going to go for a bit of a halo eye today, folks, because, well, why not? So again, I'm just really gently tapping this on. So inner third, outer third, just gently patting that matte on, leaving the middle third of the eyelid clear. Again, pick up more pigment. I'm going to tilt my head back so you can see what I'm doing this side. Obviously when I do this eye I can just close it. Blinding this eye, not blinding this one for newbies. And I'm just going to... See, this is how you would do it if you were having to put your own crease line in. I'm just, with my eye open, lightly tapping so I can see how high I want that colour to go. And now I'll tilt my head back and just start piling the pigment in. And the way I do it with this one, rather than doing the windscreen wiper movement, I am literally just tapping that pigment into place. All the way across, just lightly tapping it in. And obviously you are going to see some patchy bits because we haven't tried to blend it yet, but I just pick up a little bit more pigment and fill in until I've got the sort of U shape in place. And then check again, yeah, because I wanted to make sure that I still see, when my eyes are open, I still wanted to see that really dark shade just above the crease, because I'm not going to be using 3 shades, I'm only going to be using 2 up my eye this time. Okay, so just add any extra pigment to areas that need it. So you can see this is a very, very different method to how I normally apply my shadows. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other eye. So tap onto the outside third first. As I said, it's probably easy for you to see on this eye because this eye I can actually close. And then doesn't matter if you get splotches like I've just got there, because we can sort that out before we put our foundation on. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing my eyes first. So again, inner and outer third. I think I need to bring this one across a fraction more. This is the problem that I have getting my eyes even, because like most people, my eyes are not the same both sides. And I am going to have to very gently... Right, okay, now you can see what I mean about the deep creasing, okay? So I'm just going to have a very gentle blend out of that wonderful creasing on my eye that the doctors managed to give me when I was 5 years old from pulling my eye around too much. Okay. And again, just going to tap that colour across so I know how high I want to go. And close the eye. And start popping that pigment on. You do need patience when you're doing it like this, because obviously it does take longer than just windscreen wipering and then little circular movements, because you're literally having to really gently tap and then move the brush sort of a fraction of a millimetre to make sure you're getting it even all the way across. I think that looks about even. I think I might have come a little bit too far in this side, but I can sort that out with concealer, because I am going to show you how I cut the crease today as well. It's really not difficult the way that I do it, I promise. I'm aware that I'm not talking to you very much at the moment. I do apologise for that, but I'm very much concentrating on what I'm doing, as you can probably tell. I'm just going to use my washcloth here for taking the colour off of this brush. As I explained on previous... I've definitely gone too far in this side, haven't I? As I explained on previous films, my colour switch, the sponge is actually tearing. So although I can tap off into it, I do need to use a different method for cleaning the brush off. Right, I'm now going to go into a fluffier brush. This one is angled. You don't have to use an angled one. You can use a big old flat top fluffy one like this. You can use a slightly more tapered fluffy one like this. You can use a big old fluffy. You can use a more rounded one. So just whichever brush you're going to use for the big blend. And I'm going to go into Mean Green. Now this is obviously one of the shimmers that I had to repress, so you know, I don't know, when I see how it performs on the eye, I don't know if that's how it would perform had it not had to be repressed, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is very, very gently do little circles right along the edge of that deep green that we put down first, which was the Space Queen. Now obviously shimmers don't like being blended anyway. They do take a little bit more effort, but it is worth it because the more you blend a shimmer, the more of the sort of shimmery pigment tends to disappear. So it ends up looking more like a satin or sometimes a matte. Sorry. Bit of ASMR drinking there for you, for those of you who like that. Now obviously I'm leaving my sort of 3 to 5 mils here, or pretty much a standard brush lip width. I can't do that with these because they flare out at the end. This is a BH number 6, by the way. I keep forgetting to tell you what my brushes are, don't I? I'm sorry. And I'm going to continue this up because I want I want it to come up to about here in terms of colour for the shaping that I want, because I want to try and have like a nice sort of swoop, because where this is such a beautifully dramatic look, you can actually get away with not putting false lashes on and you still have a really vroom vroom look, So I'm just gonna, if you prefer the rounded shape for your eye, then you do that, but for me I find that it tends to work best on my eye shape if I can try and do this kind of swoopy kind of cat eye shape. I do apologise. I really hope this cold has gone now, because I normally have like at least 3 or 4 films loaded up onto YouTube but not made public yet, so that if for whatever reason I can't get any filming done, that I've still got at least a week's worth of films there, because I'm trying to do Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays for my uploads now. But because of having had 2 colds so far this year, thanks to the mother-in-law and the husband, I have depleted my entire back catalogues of films. So I need to try and get as much filmed as I can. But as you can see, I was blending while I was chatting, and that actually has blended out really nicely. And you can see it gives a really nice elongated shape to the eye. So now I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So again, starting off with tiny circles just along the edge of that matte that we put on. Just to blend these 2 shades together, because I really want to try and get it so that one shade kind of merges into the next, that you don't actually see a harsh line where one shade finishes and one shade continues, which I think I've managed to achieve that side. As I said, it does just take a little bit more patience doing it this way, but for the finished effect it's definitely worth it, or at least I think it is anyway. And you can do this with any colours. You don't have to be using the Smoke Sessions palette. If you've got a particular palette that has got very strong colours in and you want to produce a really bold look like this, the BH Zodiac palette would actually be quite a good one to use for this. Jeffrey's Alien would be a good one. Actually, the Morphe 15T and 15S wouldn't be too bad either. Blush Trypacina. You could even do a bright one using September Roses Slush. So, just trying to make sure I've got the shape the same both sides. Yep, I think I'm happy with that. And then I'm just going to sort of finesse the edges here, just to try and make sure we've not got any wayward bits that are not blended. I am so sorry, my voice is bugging me. I've got to try and get more films done today. Oh, this is going to be hysterical. So you can see I'm just really finessing this top corner, because just here and just here I struggle to actually get colour to take on my eyelids. It's places that I do get stress eczema, so, and also I do have creasing on both eyelids at that particular point, so I'm imagining that's why, because all palettes do the same on me. So, but this has actually covered it quite well. This has taken really, really well actually. I'm astounded, you could say. Now, I'm going to cut my crease now. You can see there wasn't a huge amount of blending that we did there at all. And the blending we did was more blending it into your skin rather than blending it into the other colour. So you shouldn't get fallout through the day from that shimmer. I've done this look with the sort of the greeny gold side of the palette, and I've, you know, it's been absolutely fine. I've not had fallout through the day or anything. I'm just gonna, because that was bugging the heck out of me. I think I might even use a little bit of this is just a cotton pad with some micellar water on. There we go. Normally I would leave that and do it afterwards, but it was bugging me, so I thought, right, I'm going to do it now. Right, this is my it's double-ended. It's sort of foundation at one end and concealer brush at the other. So I'm going to pick up some concealer on the brush, and I'm just going to plop it in the middle of my eye there, and then very gently tap it into the shape that I want. Okay, so you can see that was so easy. And we'll do the same this side, just plop it on the eye. It's a bit more difficult for me this side because obviously I can't close this eye. I'm just going to grab my smaller mirror out so I can keep a closer eye on what I'm doing. And you literally just gently press the brush down. Obviously, the fuller coverage the concealer is, the easier this task will actually be. And don't be surprised if the very edges of it end up tinted a little bit with the shade that you've just gone over. That's really not a problem. It happens an awful lot. So I'm going to give that a couple of seconds just to go tacky, and because, as you always know, if I'm using a cream on a brush, make sure I clean the brush off immediately, because it extends the life of the brush and it also stops it from going hard, which means if I want to use it again tomorrow I can, and makes the deep clean a bit easier as well. All of these good things, huh? Right, I'm now going to go in with a BH10, which looks like this. Flat, tiny, rounded tip brush. And I'm going to go into Sweet Tooth. And I'm just going to start packing that just on the outer edge of the concealer. And you can see I'm actually using this dry, I'm not wetting the brush at all. And it's sticking it beautifully to the concealer. So I'm going to do the same this side. Just pat it onto the outer thirds. Leaving the strip in the middle clear. I will deal with that in a minute. So where I've got deep set eyes and it just transferred up a little bit, that's all. Clean that colour off of the brush. And I'm going to go back into Blue Dream. Now this is the one which was the most damaged when it arrived. And you saw from the swatching earlier, was the most sheer looking of all of the colours. But again, I'm just applying it dry for the moment. And you can see that gives a really beautiful sort of spotlight or halo eye. Now, yes, those last two colours that I've put on are very, very similar in tone, but you would be surprised that just having that slightly lighter patch down the middle does make a big difference, especially of an evening when you're out. I'm just going to gently build up some of the pigment both sides. As I said, that one does apply the most sheer out of all of them, but I think that's because it was the most damaged and I had to use more denatured alcohol to actually get it to reset. So that's how it looks so far. I am going to go off camera and I am going to do my foundation, etc. I will come back and we will finish off this eye look. So, as always, don't go nowhere. Hey, oops, wrong way. Okay, I am back. And now I'm going to get, let's put those two back, I don't need those now. And get a nice flat top brush like this. and I'm going to dip into Space Queen, which is the matte that we used. And I'm just going to connect that to our outside edge there, and then really gently just sort of smudge it along the lower lash line. And do the same this side. I always flinch this side because obviously I don't have any peripheral vision, so kind of relying on muscle memory and the viewfinder to not poke myself in the eye. Regular viewers will attest to the fact that I'm not always that successful. And then I've got another brush here, similar again, flat topped but a lot thicker. And I'm going to dip that into Mean Green, which is this one here. Tap off and then just really gently, very, very softly blend that along the lower lash line, just to gently soften that matte shade that we've got down there. And you can see it does just, because I've got such sensitive eyes, if I put anything in the waterline, my eyes stream like mad and it ends up all down my face, all collected here like a little whatever coloured bogey. You know, if I'd used black, it'd be a black one. If I'd used purple, it'll be a purple one. If I've used nude, it'll be a nude one. But yeah, so I'd much prefer to take the colour under my lashes instead, and I find that that gives just as good a result. Okay, I am going to pause you once more because everyone knows how to put mascara on. So I'm going to put some mascara on, put some highlighter on, do something with my hair, stick a lippy on, and I will be right back with my final thoughts. So once again, please don't go anywhere. Hey, I'm back, as you can see. Now I could have teamed this with a nude lip, and indeed most people would have done, but I got my favourite Gerard Cosmetics lippy arrived, because I'd had this and it ran out because I used it so much. And then it was out of stock for ages. It finally came back into stock, so I've got another one, and this is Gravity. And I picked up the Watermelon Slay All Day as well, because I finally finished the Jasmine one. These last forever, and they work just as well as the Urban Decay Slay All Day, All Nighter rather, but they don't irritate my skin as much. I found with the All Nighter, if I use that more than sort of 2-3 days in a row, I'd start to get stress eczema come up along my jaw. Anyway, I have got discount code for Gerard. It's Bomber, all in caps, saves you 30%. Details down in the description box. But we're not talking about Gerard, we're talking about Smoke Sessions from Melt. So as you can see, this is the look that I have produced today using half of the palette. If editing me thinks on, I will put a picture up here of the exactly the same design but using the other half of the palette. Editing me is going to hate me, but yeah, it should be up there now, hopefully. I really like this. I was absolutely gutted when it arrived broken. But it repressed pretty easily actually. Thankfully they'd all sort of like lifted up, because it had the plastic sheet, it had kind of held each broken bit where it was meant to be. So I sort of lifted the plastic sheet off, took the photographs, and then instantly put sort of alcohol on and just sort of pushed them all back down into their individual things. So Melt were really good. They didn't have any more in stock, so they couldn't send me a replacement at the time. So they just refunded me, which was awesome. So obviously I don't know if these would have been brighter, deeper, creamier, better performing had I not had to repress them. But what I will say is, for a palette that's been repressed, it still produces some pretty bomb looks, as you can see. And I know a lot of people are probably going to be put off by the fact that there's only the two mattes in there, but do you know what? If it really worries you that much, use your contour shade, use your bronzer, use that as a transition shade first, and then go in with the darker one. If you really, really, really need a lighter transition shade, use your contour or your bronze, or one of your no doubt million other palettes that have got a neutral shade in it that you can use. For me, this was obviously created to be a sister palette to Gemini, which sadly I haven't got. I just could not afford to get Gemini. I would have loved to have done, but just the cost of Gemini and then the cost of shipping it to the UK and then the taxes and stuff on top, I just about managed to do this one, and that was only because I had a £10 win on the lottery. So, do I recommend Smoke Sessions? If you can still get hold of it, yes. At the moment they're out of stock, but they have brought it back once. Whether they're going to bring it back again, I don't know. What I would say though is, if it's got to come any distance, then be prepared for the fact that you could get some breakages. But another friend of mine in the UK, hers arrived absolutely perfect without any problems at all. So it is really the luck of the draw and how roughly your postie or delivery agent handles the packages. So there you go. I really love that palette. I've used it an awful lot, which is probably why I've still got so many palettes from last year that I bought that I still haven't filmed with yet. Because literally every time I'm going to go out, I'm like, oh, I'll just grab Smoke Sessions. I really like that one. What I will say about that is, if you've been looking at the Natasha Denona Gold palette, that's about a third of the price-ish. So if you can get hold of it, you can see from the picture with the golds and everything, and then the greens that are in there as well, and that beautiful sort of tealy blue, I reckon you're going to get a better deal out of that one than you would do if you got the Natasha Denona, but I don't have the Natasha, so I don't know. You know, if any sugar daddies out there or sugar mummies want to buy me the Natasha Denona, that'd be awesome, thank you. I jest. I do not expect anybody to send me anything except good wishes, maybe a like, a comment, a share, a subscribe maybe, and if you subscribe, don't forget to ring my bell, and to choose all notifications so that you get told every time that I upload another one of these films. Took another one of these films, there's an awful lot to choose from. And YouTube have been shocking at sending notifications out. So, if you're an old school 4F Beauty family member, why not have a quick check and see if there's any you've missed? And if you're a new member of the 4F Beauty family, hello, welcome. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you'd love to subscribe and stay and watch some more. But if you're not sure, and you're like me, where you want to watch more than one film before you decide whether you're going to actually subscribe or not, I've got about 170 for you to choose from in varying lengths. So why not pop over and check out a few? And once you've checked mine out, my girlies from the Beauty YouTuber Growth Group, I am sure will be delighted if you popped across and had a look at some of their latest offerings too. Right, all that remains for me to say, as ever, is you'll stay fabulous, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.